Okay. Okay, now we are recording, right? I'm going to know we're recording.
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so we're saying إنه هذه particular division between Catholic Baroque and Protestant Baroque, it's related to function. It's related to the functionality of the artwork. In that, within the Baroque, particular Baroque period, about Catholicism, art had a particular function, and within Protestantism, as it's expressed in countries such as the Netherlands, it has a different function. يعني بمعنى ثاني الكونتكست تبع الارتwork, the context of the artwork determines its functionality. What is it for? What does it do? Why does the state invest so much money in it? States are not idiots. They don't invest money هيك. They invest money in art for strategic reasons, related, in fact, to the creation of consensus, the building of consensus. Every political entity, in order to function, needs consensus. Toute entité politique, pour pouvoir fonctionner, a besoin d'un consensus. Et la fonction de l'art, dans le cadre de la civilisation, within civilization, the function of art has been very frequently the creation of consensus. Consensus around a particular form of power, consensus autour d'une forme particulière de pouvoir. This is particularly manifest in what we will call the Catholic Baroque, in our own division, what we will call the Catholic Baroque. Why? 1517. What appeared to be, and this is very frequent in history, an unimportant event. Imagine you have this billboard. مطرح بتحطوا عليه where you place, مثلا, if you have a computer to sell, if you have shoes to sell, I don't know. If you have a car to sell, just on the university. في عندنا billboard نحن في university, we have one. And you place a piece of paper with the thumbnail, punaise, un papier avec punaise, pour dire que vous avez quelque chose à vendre. Eh bien, imagine somebody only on one of those billboards placed a text. And this text, you read it, you pass by it next to it, it's completely unimportant, and it ends up changing history. Well, this is what happened with Martin Luther. Martin Luther nailed his 95 theses, his ideas, on a church door, which was used to place, billboard, basically a billboard that everybody used. On that church door, he nailed his ideas. What was his ideas and why did he nail them? Why did Martin Luther nail these ideas? Martin Luther, of course, you know him as the founder of Protestantism. The Protestantisme, Lutheran Protestantism, he's the founder of that. The heretic movement, heretic بمعنى from the Catholic point of view, a heretic movement that had still has today profound influence on human history. So why did Martin Luther nail these 95 ideas? I mean, the text was 95 ideas, idea 1, thesis 2, thesis 3. And he nailed them to this billboard, if you want to call it that way, church door, changing the world. Why did he do that? And how did it come about that it was these, little announcement was had such a profound effect? Well, the thing starts with the Vatican, with a church you've all heard of, the St. Peter's Basilica. Do you know it? In the Vatican? سامعين بالفاتيكان؟ بالإنجليزي تبع الفاتيكان. Have you seen, you know, accidentally on or purpose, the Pope giving a speech in that church? This is the main church of Christianity. Well, this was a church that there was a previous church that existed there, and that was built by Constantine, by the Emperor Constantine, on that same spot. And what the church decided to do was, in fact, destroy the old church of St. Peter and create a new one worthy of the centrality of Rome. And in effect, what they ended up creating is something of extraordinary, let's call it luxury. Now, if you go there, I think the main access is something like 256 meters. You can check it, I'm not sure. But if I remember correctly, the main access تبع هذه التشيرش طولها 256 متر. 256 meters. It's full of, today, it's full of objects made of bronze, including columns. By the way, the ceiling is, if I'm not mistaken, again, correct me if I'm wrong, is something like 50 meters high. علو السقف طبعا شي 50 متر. If I'm not mistaken, I'll check it. But it has baldachins, a baldachin, 4 columns made of bronze created by the great artist Bernini, for which they took out the bronze of the Pantheon. That's you know. The baldachin, if I am not mistaken, is something about 30 meters high. Yani columns, 4 columns of bronze. Each column is something like 30 meters high. يعني بعلو بعلبك بس معمولين من برونز. Okay, hold on, let me do something. Yeah. All right, so, but that's, you know, but in order to finance this, you needed enormous amounts of financing, enormous amounts of money. And one of the ways that the church raised money was by using something called indulgences. What are indulgences? Well, I don't really know the theological explanation for it, but basically you pay money, you get a piece of paper saying that because you paid so much money, an X amount of time, you spend less time in purgatory. يعني بتقضوا أقل شوي وقت بالمطهر. You spend, vous passez un peu moins de temps dans le purgatoire. يعني تعذبوا أقل. So this campaign, in fact, was very intense. And it's, you know, there was real, what might be described as, you know, slogans, publicity slogans, in order to encourage people to buy these indulgences so that the church can finance the St. Peter's Cathedral. One of those who went into the city of Martin Luther is a gentleman by the name of Zetzel, and he created this song. This was this slogan: when the coin in the coffer rings, the soul to heaven springs. Yeah. Obviously, this did not please our friend Martin Luther, who was completely outraged by the use of, by this promise of indulgences, and wrote his thesis against them. Well, his thesis within and remember, we're not talking about the period of social media. We're talking about a period of pre-modern, no, modern period, but a period of very limited communication. Well, his thesis, within 2 months, it had reached, I think, Netherlands, Bizarre Shahren. It was translated into several languages eventually. What explains this rapid spread of these ideas? This is a guy who just nailed some ideas to a billboard. What happened? Well, something happened that is the most important element explaining modernity: the printing press. In the 1450s, and 1450 to 1454, I'm trying to remember, Gutenberg, so something like 67 years before before nailing the thesis, Gutenberg had invented the printing press, and the printing press became extremely popular as a technology from Germany to to England. What did the printing press do? Well, printers took out these ideas, printed them, and spread them throughout Europe. What did this do? Well, what this did is that it transformed the ideas of an annoyed monk, Augustine monk, and remember, Martin Luther was a monk. It transformed the ideas of this monk, in his village, in his city, into a pan-European movement that we still have the consequence. We still live with its consequence today. Something like half of Germany turned to Protestantism. Parts of Switzerland turned to Protestantism. Parts of the Netherlands turned to Protestantism. In France, there was a rise of Protestantism that was savagely repressed. In Italy, again, the same thing. We have, in fact, an explosion of opposition, objections to the church. In England, by the way, was Henry VIII, the same thing. What does this imply? Well, this implies almost, imagine yourself in that situation. A leader watching a complete collapse around you, collapse in the sense of the people not believing you anymore. Well, this will cause, of course, a series of wars, including catastrophic wars like the 30-year War. In some parts of Germany, for instance, the 30-year War killed something like 25% of the population. That's how horrifying it was. The sack of Rome, the repression of the peasant revolts, the repression, horrifying violence throughout Europe for the next 100 years. More, actually. Well, actually, you can continue it up to the 20th century in Ireland, the continuous battle between the Catholic Irish and the Protestant Irish. So up to the 20th century, we have the consequences of this. The church, in effect, saw its power completely fractioning, weakened, profoundly weakening of this power. And as the church does during these periods of great crisis, it invited all the church hierarchy to a council in the city of Trent, where there will be three great discussions on how to fight the rise of Protestantism. Well, what were the ideas that the church, their ideas tell you, in fact, that by explaining what their ideas were, you understand what the Protestantism of Martin Luther was saying. So what did they reaffirm? What were the ideas that they affirmed? This is true. If you want to be Catholic, you have to believe in this. If you don't want to be Catholic, you're gonna get killed, or excommunicated. And we're talking, of course, about the 16th century. What were these ideas? Well, they reaffirmed something called the sacerdotal structure. Sacerdotal structure is the idea that in order to... yeah. Go ahead, Roger.
سوري، في مجال شوي أكثر تفسر بالعربي؟
فرنسي.
ما في إزعاج. يلا أوكي ميرسي. بس فرنسي في غير أنجلي.
عم بشرح بالفرنسي والأنجلي بنفس الوقت ترى non? Alors, trois rencontres, il va y avoir des rencontres, trois rencontres entre 1543 et 45 et 1563. Les rencontres des personnages les plus importants de l'Église, et ils vont réaffirmer un nombre de choses. They will reaffirm a number of things. All of these things that the Catholic questioned and, in fact, opposed in some cases. Toutes ces choses que les protestants, that the Protestants opposed and que les protestants ont opposé. Entre autres, la structure sacerdotale. C'est quoi cette structure sacerdotale? What is that sacerdotal structure? It's the idea that in order to reach God, you have to pass through the church. Your relationship with God is mediated by the church. Que votre relation avec Dieu est médiée, qu'il y a une médiation entre vous et Dieu par l'Église. How? Well, premièrement, c'est par le baptisme, through baptism. In order to become a Christian, you have to get baptized. And, well, who is the one that baptizes you? Qui va vous donner votre baptîme? C'est l'Église. Donc, votre relation avec Dieu est une relation qui est une relation médiée par l'Église, mediated by the church. The idea of sacraments, of which Martin Luther refused a great number. L'idée des sacrements, l'idée des indulgences, complètement opposée par Martin Luther. The idea of indulgences, that indulgences, they are legitimate. The cult of the saints. نحن عندنا مثلا الصلاة to pray for Saint Charbel, for instance. Le culte des saints, de prier pour Saint Charbel. Le culte de la Vierge. All of these were, in fact, refused by the Protestants to varied degrees, for instance. Pas complètement, mais à degrés variés. And the most important thing, l'élément le plus important, c'est le refus de compromis tout compromis avec le protestantisme. ما في معركة للموت. هاي المعركة للموت معركة للموت بمعنى انه حروب عم نحكي مش عم نمزح يعني. what does this imply also? Qu'est-ce que ça va impliquer? Ça va impliquer aussi des changements qui sont des changements institutionnels. That will imply institutional changes. What kind of changes? Well, before the Council of Trent, the education of the clergy was not unified. Avant le Concile de Trente, l'éducation des clergés n'était pas quelque chose d'unifié. Après, ça va devenir unifié. And ils vont établir, éventuellement, il y aura l'établissement d'ordre religieux extrêmement important, en fait, pour la modernité aussi. Extremely important for modernity. Among them, the Capuchins, mais qui ont, entre autres, inventé quelque chose d'extraordinaire qui est le cappuccino. Et on les rejette, بيشكرون كل يوم على بكره بيشكرون. Et les jésuites. Les jésuites qui sont en fait la partie, je dirais, la plus that are the most disciplined part of the church. Some describe them as the soldiers of the church. Comme les soldats, certains les décrivent comme les soldats de l'Église, mais ils sont les plus éduqués aussi. C'est des gens qui ont compris l'importance de l'éducation. These are people who understood the importance of education, and some of them actually are great scientists in the 20th century. Some have, among the things that they did in Lebanon, for instance, is the creation of our best university, one of the two best universities in Lebanon, AUB and USG, Université Saint-Joseph. عملوها الجزويت. So there's also, this meeting is about to end in 10 minutes, okay. There's also the Ursulines, les Ursulines, who will take care of the education of women. So in understanding, along with different ideas, we're not talking about feminism here, but an understanding of the importance of educating women, and in opposition to the excesses of the Renaissance, particular excesses of the Renaissance. Not the architectural excesses, not the artistic excesses, لأنه الباروك هيحط الاكسسز تبع الرينيسانس بجيبته صغيره. بس ليه؟ Well, it's another idea that emerged from the Council of Trent. It's the idea that art should be used to encourage faith. استعمال الفن, l'usage de l'art pour encourager la foi. And this use of art to encourage faith is going to put an emphasis that you do not find neither in the Renaissance nor in the later Renaissance, neither in the High Renaissance nor in the Renaissance tardif, neither in Manierism, which is an emphasis on emotions. Yes, in the Renaissance of you look at the painting by Leonardo, you're going to find it might transport you into great levels of emotions, but the emotions that you are experiencing in a painting of Leonardo are not going to be the same that are emphasized in the Baroque. So why this emphasis? We're going to describe these differences. Why the emphasis on these emotions? Well, it's rhetoric. C'est de la rhétorique. What do we mean by rhetoric? C'est l'art de convaincre, the art of convincing. Rhetoric can be described as the art of convincing others. And brilliant mind like Shakespeare understood something very, very important in rhetoric. He expresses it in one of his plays, which is the Julius Caesar, the play of Julius Caesar. In the play of Julius Caesar, تعرفوا شو صار بجوليوس Caesar, right? Julius Caesar got killed. He was killed by Brutus. His possible.
No?
Huh?
The Senate.
Sorry?
By the Senate.
By the Senate.
Senate.
Yeah.
But
the leader of the Senate. Yeah.
Yeah.
The leader
Brutus
of this revolution was Brutus.
Yes.
And Brutus goes out to the public. The public was completely enraged that Julius Caesar died. So Brutus assembles the Romans, the Roman citizens, the Roman plebe, and explains to them very rationally why he had to kill Julius Caesar. He explains to them, Julius Caesar was like a father to me. Nobody lost more because of the death of Julius Caesar than I did. I lost, the access to the most powerful figure in Roman history. But I did it. Why? Because Julius Caesar was attacking Roman liberty. He wanted to transform us from a republic to a dictatorship. That he imposed himself. He was imposing himself. Yes, Hannah. He was imposing himself as a dictator. Yes, Hannah.
Brutus, what I read that Brutus killed Caesar because he expected أن يكون هو heir after Caesar, but Caesar had a son, the son of Cleopatra, not Cleopatra.
Yes.
What's her name?
Yes.
Yeah. So and he didn't care about. Okay, he had morals, big time, but Caesar gave him all a big responsibility in the Roman Republic back then.
Absolutely.
So
Brutus
I guess
was son of a woman with which Julius Caesar had an affair. Yes,
definitely. So
there was rumors that he was his father. We're not sure about these rumors, probably false, but
I guess I read that it's false because when he met his mother, Brutus was already have been born back then.
Voilà.
So
absolutely.
So
when we know that he met his mother.
Yeah.
When we think that he met his mother.
Yes, but the Roman Republic and Empire is so interesting, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating.
Yes.
And it's very close to what we're seeing here today. Anyway, we'll discuss that someday. So, what did Brutus do? By the way, I should mention, and you're right to point it out, there's a difference between history and Shakespeare's reading of history. We're talking about Shakespeare here. Shakespeare's reading of what happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, there is in fact discrepancy. So what did Brutus do? He explained rationally why he needed to kill Julius Caesar. The people, and they clapped. They were very happy, and and we should. And they said that we should Brutus should be turned into a dictator. Brutus should be turned into our king. When they said that, Brutus should have been very, very careful. Then they didn't understand the thing they said. So what happens is Mark Antony comes out, and Brutus, like an idiot, allows Mark Antony, and we're talking about Shakespeare here, allows for Mark Antony to give a speech as long as he does not attack them.
Yes.
And he says, and now I will leave you, and I trust that, trust Mark Antony, which is the aide right-hand man of Julius Caesar. So Mark Antony, he goes and he starts crying. And he starts, wailing about the death of Brutus. And he tells them about the death of Julius Caesar. And he tells them what a great, while crying, he tells them, he touches the blessure, the wounds on Julius Caesar. He tells them, he shows them the blood of Julius Caesar, and the people start crying and start wailing with him.
But Mark Antony was faithful to Julius Caesar, no?
Mark Antony was what?
Faithful to Julius Caesar.
He was faithful to
No?
himself, but yeah, he was faithful to Julius Caesar.
He was
the right-hand man of Julius Caesar, yeah.
okay.
He's the right-hand military man.
Yes,
So he
definitely.
starts crying, and the people start crying with him. And 5 minutes before they were with Brutus, now they're what? They're with whom? They are with the enemy of Brutus, which is Mark Antony, the one who fully supported Julius Caesar. How did Mark Antony do that? Whereas Brutus's approach, rhetorical approach, was based on rationality, logic, انه يا جماعة من مصلحتكم أنا عم دافع عن حريتكم. Mark Antony's approach was based on what? العواطف, البكاء, النحيب, and which one Shakespeare says is more efficient? Well, we know which one is more efficient. Is that after Mark Antony's speech, where the